Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us once again for our passion interview with the LuAnn Academy. For those who are new to this series that we've been doing, we're really focusing on the things that our LuAnn Academy graduates are passionate about. What is it about the various coursework that they've taken through the LuAnn Academy that they've been able to make a reality for themselves and really reinforce the passions that they follow in life? And so for those who may be new to the LuAnn Academy, so the LuAnn Academy was founded by Denise LuAnn. For those who don't know Denise, there's so much that can be said, but I will say that she is modern day mystic. I would say that she is just a brilliant individual who has brought to bear for our academy all of her experiences working with various cultures around the world. So for instance, Feng Shui, she was able to bring Feng Shui to the States. She coined the term space clearing in the US. She has created a soul coaching program. She has created clutter clearing programs. So there are various certification programs: Feng Shui, space clearing, soul coaching, gateway dreaming. There's so many, but there's this amalgamation of courses that she's pulled together to really help all of us really focus on one thing. How do we better listen to the truth of our souls? And she's someone who's able to help us to kind of see the realness of that, if you will. And she's trained so many people in helping others to do that as well. So we're very grateful for Denise and for the LuAnn Academy. And so we're fortunate today to have someone who is a graduate of many of Denise's programs, LuAnn Cibik. I'm very excited to have her on the show today. She is, there's so much that can be said about LuAnn, but I'm going to start with her heart because she's one of those people who her heart is so open and it's connected to her mind. And what I mean by that is that often people who are very heart focused are not also then kind of very bring into bear kind of how they think about things, maybe either more linear fashion or how they combine those things. And to me, that's just such a gift where she's able to bring to her students, bring to her clients this openness and this guidance that helps them kind of traverse their heart to their mind and back again. And it's just an amazing thing to be a part of. The other thing to know about LuAnn, which some of you may know, some of you may not, is that she does so much work behind the scenes for the LuAnn Academy, whether it's the newsletter, whether it's reaching out to our community to make sure that they have the opportunity to shine, whether it's really helping to guide us as an overall kind of year over year, what is it that we want to do, not only for our community, but also for the world? So she is really core to all of the work that we do at the LuAnn Academy, and I'm really, really grateful for all that she does. I'm grateful that she's a friend. I will let her continue her story, but first, just so you know what she'll be talking about today, she's going to be talking about Feng Shui. And for those who may be new to Feng Shui is really the way in which we experience our environment and how we can work with our space and the energy of our space to support our lives. And it's something that really is a powerful way for each of us to take practical action to make positive change in our lives. And so, as I mentioned, she has many certifications. One of them is as a master teacher of interior alignment, which includes instinctive feng shui, also medicine wheel feng shui. And she has trained many people in this work. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it to you, LuAnn. Welcome. So glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Bill. I'm so honored. I'm feeling my heart right now with all those
Mm,
lovely things that you just said.
mm,
And Bill and I have known each other for a long time because Bill has also been somebody who's worked behind the scenes a
mm,
long time. In
mm,
fact, many, many years ago, I'll say it, back in 2002,
mhm.
I think.
I think so. Yeah. Huh?
Is when both Bill and I were first trained in interior alignment
Mm,
feng shui. And so when you're my age, that doesn't sound like that long ago, but I recognize there are people who could be listening to that and going, that was before I was born, but that's okay.
mm,
Um, what's cool is that actually this feels like a new part of my life, and maybe it does for you, Bill, too, where
Mm,
once you learn this aspect of how our environment makes us feel and how we can use our environment to propel our dreams,
mm,
it's it's kind of opens the door to seeing the world in a whole new way. And I look at that as the beginning of that next phase of my life.
mm,
Um, Prior to that, I worked in computer programming back in the day when it was even called data processing.
mm,
And I liked that job. And there were times I loved that job. And the reason why I loved it is, as maybe Bill said, I love to help people. And that's kind of one of my passions is being able to help people. And so writing computer programs that made people's jobs easier fulfilled a passion at that time. And it wasn't like I grew up as a little kid going, oh, I want to be a computer programmer. As a little kid, I wanted to play with fairies and unicorns.
mm,
I was fascinated by buildings. And for a while, my parents, I think, thought I was going to go into engineering or architecture because I was always drawing buildings. I was always making floor plans. I would go out and rake the leaves in the fall into big houses, like floor plans, right? And I would talk
mm,
about this is the living room, and I made the neighborhood kids come over and play. If it was snow, I made walls out of snow that were floor
mm,
plans. Like I was really connected to houses in a weird way at a young
mm,
age. And I also loved color. I loved rocks and collecting rocks. And at the time, none of those things seem like they add up to a career, right?
mm, mm,
So, so, my thought was interior design for a while because it dealt with houses, but I ended up, computer programming. That was the thing they said everyone was going to be hired for. So that's the career I went. And it was good for a while, but then I really, really got tired of the corporate game. And I
mm.
know you know that feeling too, Bill.
I do.
And I think probably a lot of the listeners who are maybe, you know, in the corporate game have that same feeling. It's like, I don't like maybe exactly what my company does, but they pay me well, and this is my job, and this is what I have to do. I have a mortgage, blah, blah, blah. Like you feel like you're on the hamster wheel and there's no getting off.
Mm,
And that was how I was feeling in this corporate game. And so I would take little workshops on, um, like I got a certification in color therapeutics for the home because that was like a fun thing to learn. And I got certifications in essential oils because that was a fun thing to learn. And learned about working with tarot cards, learned about, a little about palmistry and face reading and, you know, all of these things that fascinated me, but in my mind, they're not a real job, right? And then one day, as I was cruising the Barnes and Noble looking for my next new hobby, I found this book called Quest by
mm,
Denise Lynn. And I thought that's an unusual title. And I started looking through it, and it was talking about how you could get really quiet and really listen for signs, symbols, and messages. And I thought, oh, this sounds like a very cool book. So I bought the book, read it, did a little mini quest in my backyard. And on my mini quest, my message was that it was a message about you have permission to do whatever you want to do. You have
mm,
permission to study whatever you want to do. You have permission to go whatever path you want to go on. And that seemed like a very bizarre message to me because, we all at that time, my view was like, this is what you do. You're on a career path. This is what you do on a career path. But I thought, well, okay. And I didn't exactly know what that meant yet. Like, do I get a different job in corporate? It's like I don't really know what that meant. But I did know that I wanted to read more books by this author, Denise Lynn,
mm,
because I really loved the really wonderful, grounded, open, caring way she wrote.
mm.
Felt like she was my new best friend, right? I mean, and
Absolutely.
anybody who reads one of Denise's books goes, oh my God, she feels like my new best friend.
Mhm,
So I went back to the Barnes and Noble, found this book called Feng Shui for the Soul, and another one called Sacred Space. And as I devoured those books, I was like, oh my God, this thing called Feng Shui takes all of these things that I have loved over the years, puts it together in one neat package.
Mm.
So at that point, I decided that would be my new hobby, right? Feng Shui would be my new hobby.
Mhm.
But as it turns out, when I went to take my course with Denise back in 2002, and it would have been cool. Bill and I were 1 week apart. She was
I
teaching
know.
2 different weeks. I was in the 1 week, Bill was in another week.
Mm.
But I took that course, and when I finished it, I was like, when I go back, I'm going to tell them I want to go part-time because I was so excited about this. I was gonna create my new business and do that and do this. And but I came back, and guess what? Corporate being corporate was having big layoffs, and they wanted to lay off half my department, but not me.
Mm.
But I was gonna have to work night shift operator
Mm.
and PC repair. It was like basically they told me you're gonna work 20 hours a day, or you're gonna work 24 hours a day or be on call 24 hours a day, not getting any more pay.
Oof.
And I thought, you know what? The universe has just given me a sign. I
Absolutely.
have come to a fork in the path,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Do I take the path I have been on of
Mhm.
misery, or do I take a new path?
Mhm.
So I turned in my letter of resignation, and that is how I started my feng shui career so
Ah.
many years ago.
Mm. Mhm. That's amazing. What a journey. What a journey. Ah.
It has been a journey. And, from the beginning, it was a part of building my own business. But um, Denise also at that time was following her passions as well. And she was very passionate about this new certification, soul coaching. And knowing that you can't do everything all at the same time, she decided that she was not going to teach interior alignment anymore,
Mm.
and that she would teach new people as master teachers. And so Bill and I both became master teachers in that system. And it was also where we kind of created what we called the Foundation Council for
Mm.
Interior Alignment. Bill was on it as well at that time. So our mission was kind of helping the practitioners, helping maintain that. And so again, that came from a very heart-centered place for me. And I know also from Bill of like, how do we keep this beautiful body of knowledge about feng shui that is so different than others, some of the other feng shui schools or systems out there. And when Bill and I talked about doing this passions chat today, um, my thought was I just wanted to share a little bit about my perspective of how interior alignment is different than other feng shui schools and perhaps more needed right now.
Mm.
Um, there's not a lot of rules in our system. Our rule is if it feels good, it's good feng shui. And
Mhm.
then we have a second rule that you use sometimes. And if it feels bad, it's bad feng shui. And then everything else we learn are the tools of how to make it feel good for that person at this time in this place.
Mhm.
And sometimes it makes me giggle a little bit when I participate in other international feng shui groups that have people from a lot of different schools or a lot of people who have read a bunch of books. And they get very hung up on what I consider some minute details that I'm not saying might not make a difference, but I think they kind of miss the big picture. And I think you've seen some of them too, Bill, where people get very like, which particular statue do I need to bring in the most abundance? And what
Mhm.
exact place in my home do I put this statue?
Mhm. For sure.
And I will say that I believe those kinds of things can work, but they work through intention.
Uh,
Like if you have no connection to what a three-legged frog means, then it'd be silly for you to buy a three-legged frog with no
Mhm.
understanding of what its symbolism is and putting it in a particular place and forgetting about it. That's not that's not going to make the difference.
Mhm.
What I love about our interior alignment system is it's very much about understanding what somebody's intention is and then helping them, assisting them with thinking about, now, how do we change your space so it feels abundant? So it generates for you a sense of, I am now abundance and more abundance is coming.
Mhm.
So many times people also think feng shui is just for getting wealthy or getting powerful, right?
Mhm.
Like on the surface level, it's like, I'll call it trinket feng shui for wealth and power.
Mm.
And no doubt that was a piece of it. Like back in the day, thousands of years ago, the only people who could afford feng shui were the rich and powerful, and their goal was to stay rich and powerful.
Mhm.
So a lot of the things that are out there are those remedies or those mystical enchantments to make that happen.
Mhm.
But today, I think we live different lives, and I think many of us, especially people listening to this, know that rich and powerful might not make you happy. It might not make you feel fulfilled.
Mhm.
And so I like to think of, how do we create more feng shui for happiness, right?
Mm.
What for each individual, happy means a different thing, or joyful means a different thing. And
Absolutely.
so as practitioners, what we do, we talk to our clients. We don't go in and do um, generic feng shui where it's like, well, just send me your floor plan, I'll put the bagua on it, and then I'll tell you what colors to paint in the rooms. Again, it can work, but it misses the point of like, what's going on in your life? What could be a challenge that's happening? And what would be your goal? What would be your dream? What would make you so happy?
Mhm.
And then we see what's not in conjunction, like what is going on in the house versus what they want. And rather than add things,
Mhm.
I don't know about you, Bill, but I tend to find that most people need to take some things away.
Absolutely. There's so many times when people will have the conversation around what's really going on and what they want to be going on. And they'll look around and they'll start saying, wait a minute, why do I still have that? What is that? What is, that's from a relationship 20 years ago, or, so there's so many things that people, once they take that moment to step back and say, what am I surrounding myself with? What is that energy? It can be such a powerful thing to take away.
Mhm. And I know a bunch of people got it when we when we had the pandemic happen and
Mm.
everybody was in their house and there was no escape, and they were looking around, and all of a sudden they're going, oh my God, what is all this stuff in my house? And so massive amounts of clutter clearing occurred at that time.
Hmm.
And and that's good, right? As you said, we want to look at, what don't we love, what don't we need, and what doesn't represent me going forward,
Hmm.
right? What
Hmm.
is a part of me in the past and it can be great to honor, not saying anything was wrong with somebody in the past,
Of course.
right? But we need to surround ourselves with who we want to be, things that generate that feeling of who we want to be
Hmm.
today moving forward.
Hmm.
So clutter clearing, even though in ancient feng shui terms wasn't in the ancient feng shui books, it's because they didn't have clutter then, right?
Right.
They weren't dealing with massive amounts of just materialistic items they'd accumulated. So it is a part of what we need to do now. And another piece of, I think, what we need to do now that um, didn't have to happen before was another piece of what we teach in our system, and that is, are our homes healthy?
Mm.
And I wish I could say that the rules that govern buildings and creation of architectural forms were really about making people healthy, body, mind, and spirit. But they're not.
Mm.
And so many people don't know that the material, if you could buy it in a store and bring it in your house, it must be safe. No, no, it probably might not be. And there's so many things happening now with um, for example, a lot of new homes that have the LED pot lights in the ceiling, wonderful bright light. Oh, you can get it in different colors, like those lights now. That the light is actually very nice, but those LEDs generate so much dirty electricity that the meter I've had for like 15 years to measure dirty electricity, if you need it to be like around 100 on there, and it would show, maybe 600 or 700, and you put a filter in and all is good. These new houses I'm going to, it's showing in the thousands, and I thought my meter
Mm,
was broken. And I called the company and they said, no, it's just we're introducing so much technology that's good for saving the planet, but not good
mhm,
for human beings, that you need almost like a whole house filter system now. So
mm,
it's things to be aware of that we don't even know we're doing to ourselves between, Wi-Fi, cell phones, all the invisible energies in the space. There could be a lot going on. And when people are feeling tired and run down and um, constantly getting colds and flus, one of the things that we look at is what's going on in the house. Is it chemicals from the cleaning products? Is it, what could be the scientific reason
mm,
behind these? And then we can work with the metaphysical. How do we put in um, representations of health and vibrancy? How can we look at the Bagua, which is our mystical map we lay over the floor plan of a space to see, well, in the area for health, what kind of representation do you have there? Is a bunch of clutter there? Is it where
mhm,
you keep all of your old medical records? Like, what are you keeping there?
mhm,
So those are feng shui too, even though they weren't talked about in ancient times. So I get passionate about not just the beautiful things of feng shui, of like creating command position and creating colors that empower and uplift and support, and how we can use rocks and crystals and essential
mhm,
oils and all of those goodies, but also taking a look at in our homes now, how do we truly make it a sanctuary? How can we really truly do feng shui for our soul?
mhm. Absolutely. Now you mentioned something about the command position. And for those who may not know what that is, can you expand on that a little bit?
Sure, it's one of the very earliest feng shui premises. So you might have heard it as armchair position. Sometimes people call it a power position, which is slightly different, but along the same things. And it's the same thing. I guarantee you already know it. When you go out to eat somewhere and you're presented with where would you like to sit in the restaurant, you like to sit in that back area with your back towards the wall where you can see people coming in, you can see what everybody's doing in the place. You have command position. Or
Mhm,
if you think about when I watch those movies with all of the Vikings and people like in ancient times, and you go into this great big room where they're all eating, and at the end, there's a throne, and the person who's in charge sits on the throne in command position,
mhm.
right? That's the same thing we want for ourselves in our home. You don't want to be the one sitting with your back to the door. That does not make you in command. So that's what command position is.
Great, thank you. And it's really important even in the bedroom.
Very much so. Even when people think, why, and how we use this. Let's say that they're working hard and they're not getting recognized for their work in their corporate job or whatever job, right? They're not being recognized. One of the things that we look at is in your home. Have you put yourself in command so you can be seen, that you make decisions, that you are not the victim, but
Mm,
indeed you are in charge, right? And as many places like in the bedroom, where they eat their meals, where they sit in the living room, every one of those is a command position opportunity. And I have had clients write to me and call me up and say, it's like a miracle happened. Like, because it seems like it shouldn't make any difference what
mm.
you do in your home and how it would relate in the outside world, but it does.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing how the changes that we make when they're tied to intention, how they really can make powerful shifts for people. And we don't need to know why. We just know that it does, and that
It
it
does.
works.
It's how it works. And I think part of it is when it when we have that intention, when we understand I am sitting in command position because the feng shui person told me this is command position, it starts something here that
Mhm,
resonates with how we carry ourselves through life.
mhm,
But it also puts a message out to the universe like, no, I deserve to be in charge, right?
Mhm.
I think there's a twofold factor there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you are working with someone who's brand new to Feng Shui, are there, are there perspectives that you want to share with them so they start to really understand it further or deeper? Or is there, if they were to say, hey, where do I start? How would you help them kind of get started with Feng Shui?
Well, I would say, my favorite book on feng shui for somebody to start with is, of course, Denise's book, Feng Shui for the Soul.
Hmm.
And it gives you kind of a basic blueprint of how to think about things, right?
Hmm.
And the next thing I would have people start to do is take a look at their space and release what doesn't represent them now or moving into the future.
Hmm.
And then look at how can I bring more nature in?
Hmm.
Because nature is what empowers us. So whether it's images of nature, scent from nature, sound from nature, colors from nature, once we do that, we start to ground and balance ourselves and move forward, I think, with even more confidence. So
Hmm.
those would be three things to start with. And then of course, I would say, look for workshops online or um, look for more videos here on the Lynn Academy Passion.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah,
Love that.
because, and I was just going to say feng shui, but here's the thing. Sometimes some feng shui teachers, and everyone has their own perspective, but if you're liking what we're talking about here, then you might not want to go down the road of some of the more ancient traditional methods. And nothing wrong with those, but we all resonate with something differently.
Hmm. For
So
sure.
that
One other thing that I just wanted to touch on is, I'm a nature guy, as you know. I love nature and just the idea of cycles that occur in nature. And feng shui is a reflection of that. And so I'm curious if you have any thoughts on for people who say, hey, I've seen a feng shui consultant, I'm done. And, when I think of the cycles of nature, we're always shifting, we're always changing. So do you have any thoughts for people who are saying, well, is this something I need to always do, or when should I do it again, or is it a one and done? How would you kind of help them understand what would work best for them?
it is not a once and done because we are always growing and changing.
Oh.
So while you might have a good, I'll call it good bones, right? You
Mhm.
set up some good bones, some structure, some intention around things. I can guarantee you, you are probably not the same person this year that you were last year. You may
Mhm.
not want exactly the same things this year as you did last year. And so it's always a value to take a look around and see what might need to be shifted, what might need to be released, what might need to be manifested in your life. You're done with that, and you don't have to have maybe that specific intention there anymore. And to your point, Bill, nature is always changing, right? We're always
Mhm.
in cycles and seasons. And I think we need to represent that in our homes as well. Many people do through holiday decorating, right? We're kind of
Mhm.
subtly bringing those in. But I think if people also thought about nature in terms of what nature's doing, right?
Mhm.
In terms of it, there's a time where it's beginning something and then it's blossoming and working really hard and busy all the time.
Mhm.
And then it recognizes what it's accomplished, right? It has its
Mhm.
harvest time, its fruitful time. And then everything kind of goes back to sleep for a little bit and rests and dreams and thinks about the next cycle. And we are so much in a go, 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 go. Everything is always like, you got to get it done, you got to get it done. I think if we could think more about how nature goes, no, it's not always about go, go, go. There is a time for rest, rest, rest. And I think that is just as important for people to bring into their homes.
Beautifully said. Thank you. Well, we are about out of time. So I wanted to just let people know what's the best way for them to reach out to you if they have more questions or if there are classes and things that they could take from you. What do you have coming up?
Well, if you go to my website, it's innerharmonyschool.com. LuAnnCibik.com. And on there, you can find out about the different events I have coming up, different certifications. I teach interior alignment, soul coaching from the LuAnn Academy, but I've also created a forest therapy certification program.
Mhm.
And in addition to certifications, because not everybody is looking to be certified, I also offer different workshops, and some of them are recorded. I call it my dream life series, so that if you're trying to manifest your dream life, right, then you can
Mhm.
learn more about feng shui, space clearing, rocks and crystals, color. I have a live one coming up in August.
Mm.
It's called Feng Shui for Joy, that will talk specifically about how to recognize what brings you joy and then how to create the feng shui for that in your home. So those are some of the things I have coming up. Thanks for asking,
Yeah,
Bill.
of course. Thanks, LuAnn, and thanks so much for joining us. It's been a great conversation, and I think people will get a lot out of this. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. For those of you who want to learn more about the LuAnn Academy, you can find us at theluannacademy.com. We also have a Facebook page, so you'll see these videos there. We also have a YouTube page, so you can check that out as well. We have these passionate interviews as well as several others that I think will help kind of just connect you with what your soul wants, feng shui, and just kind of elevate you and lift you up a little bit. So thanks everyone for joining us. And until next time, thanks again, LuAnn.
Okay, bye-bye.